Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update.
A very, very good morning to all of you. A hearty hello from the House of Tatas. A warm welcome to this morning's session. Super congrats for making it to the top B schools in the country. And thank you. You know, if I had to rewind my life back to the time and to the days that you are at today at this juncture, I think that's what I was looking for. A wealth and an ocean of wonderful experiences. And that exposure in my life as a youngster. So TAS was institutionalized in 1956, in its 63rd year this year, whose intrinsic purpose back then and till now has been to identify young, high potential talent like you guys and to groom you for future leadership positions, thereby satisfying two objectives. One, helping young talent realize their aspiration and their potential and providing a platform for that. And clearly the other one is building leaders for the Tata Group, thereby maintaining the long-term sustainability of the group. My friends, TAS is a program that places opportunities before you, that helps you develop an ensemble of perspectives. It's a program that says, come decorate your life with a wealth of experiences, come find yourself, and remember, the quality of your life is the quality of your experiences.
For the first time I heard someone who belonged to a private company call himself an officer was a TAS officer. I was like, why is he calling himself an officer? It was very amusing. But as over time I came to know the kind of projects that he was handling, the kind of work that they do, I realized that a lot of work at TAS is also work for the country, also work for nation building essentially, and that is why in hindsight it made total sense that it's called a TAS officer. In a lot of places it's called the factory of the CEOs. It has been an extremely aspirational program for many years now on many campuses, and we are going to be talking to the recruiting team at TAS. Thank you.
How did you first get introduced to the brand TAS and where did it start?
We didn't have something of this sort back then, at least, you know, pre-placement talk like Jukta was talking about, and I wish we had one as well. But my first association came to TAS when I actually joined campus.
But what were your reasons for choosing TAS?
Okay, so I was leading teams from the day one itself. And you're leading teams of people comprising of people who are at least 10 to 15 years elder to you. So, you know, you realize, A, the sense of power and achievement that you've got. B, you realize the sense of responsibility that a lot of other people have put into you. So I realized that for me was quite appealing. That's one. Two, of course, I realized that I get bored quite often. So for me, it was just about, you know, getting an exposure in multiple areas and multiple dimensions of work life. So it became easy for me to kind of join a company like TAS because, hey, my first role was a business development role. My second role was a pure play marketing role. My third role was a finance-based role. Fourth role, operations role. Right now, I'm doing more of a I don't know, more like a customer and a business-oriented role. The way it works in TAS is you have your first year where you do, on an average, about 4 stints, 3 business stints and 1 community stint.
Mine was in Jharkhand, in a tribal village, which is essentially Birsa Munda's village as well. And I was working on education. So I think the biggest trouble that I had to solve was how to make my project even relevant to the people. People who are looking for food, like 3 full meals in a day, how do you make education relevant to them? So it was a terrific project, and yeah, I agree. That's possibly one of the most enriching 2 months of my life.
And then after which you're placed into a group company for a permanent-ish sort of a role, where you typically would serve about 2 to 3 years in one company and then move on to another company. You're under the aegis of TAS for about 5 or 6 years. Of course, there are multiple interactions and interventions that TAS typically has every second year on an average.
Coming back to your current role, and of course you've also had a journey through Motors. If you can take us through that journey and let us know how was it.
So I'm currently working with Titan, but I was working with Tata Motors before this. So my first full-time job was with Tata Motors. I was an area manager for the passenger vehicles division, and I was based out of Tirupati. So you can imagine a guy like me based out of Tirupati. I was the guy with the longest hair there. So anyway, so you can imagine now I'm a guy, helping sell vehicles all the way from Nano to Aria to Safari and all these kind of vehicles. I'm now currently looking after the wedding category in Tanishq. It's pretty cool when you say that you're looking after $500 million of, my portfolio is $500 million. So it's quite nice when you talk about it that way.
So if I can just take a step back and think over your experience and mine, I think what TAS really does offer is the ability to live many lives in one and have many experiences in just one.
Siddarth, yeah, tell us right from the beginning. 2007, long time ago.
2006 actually, my
2006.
journey with TAS started with summers. So I came in through the summer internship route. I had done, after SRCC, I did a postgrad in advertising and marketing, and then worked for a couple of years in JWT and then Ogilvy. And then decided to do my MBA. So gave Kat the usual story where you guys are right now, got the calls, then you can't refuse the calls. So you sort of go into that lot and say, acha, theek hai. So, next 10, 15 years of your journey is defined.
Mine started off a little differently.
Yeah.
Very differently, actually. So, I'm an engineer and I worked extremely hard during my engineering days. I studied very hard and I had a glorious academic record. And thanks to the glorious academic record, I got no calls on day 0, day 1 or day 2 during summers. So no interview calls, no shortlists at all. I mean, you get no opportunity to go and talk to anybody. So then I actually then worked pretty hard at B School. I studied hard, I did a lot of competitions and a whole bunch of things. So by the time finals arrived, my CV was beefed up, it was good. I got the TAS shortlist. That I remember very clearly still, a couple of friends of mine. So my friends actually were more worried for my placements than I was. About 8 or 9 months into my time at the Tata Trusts, in March of 2016, the executive trustee then, who then became the managing trustee, Mr. Venkat Ramanan, gave me a call. And he says to me, there is a new secretary of the Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitation. Have you heard of them? I said, no, I haven't actually. So he says, have you heard of the Swachh Bharat Mission? I said, of course I've heard of the Swachh Bharat Mission. He says the Swachh Bharat Mission is run by the Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitation, the rural component of it. And it's headed by a secretary. The incumbent secretary had quit, who was 80-something batch IAS officer. The government has decided to bring in somebody laterally. They don't want another run-of-the-mill IAS officer. I discussed it with my parents, with my girlfriend, and I told Venkat, yeah, maybe I can do this. How much time do I have? This was Friday evening. He says, pack your bags, fly out Sunday, Monday morning, 9 a.m., report. But don't worry, you can be there for 3 to 6 months and then take a call. Decide how it is, try and help them set up systems and then take it from there.
How long has it been?
It's now been 3 years.
I graduated from an engineering college pretty much clueless because my brother had done computer engineering. So I was like, maybe that's the coolest thing to do. So I also ended up being a computer engineer. And one fine day I was like, okay, let me just try education for the next couple of years. And I did that. Of course, that time we were a 5-member company. Today that company is the world's largest education technology company. So the interesting connotation there was when I was giving these interviews for all the B schools across the country, the first thing they would ask me is why an MBA and what next after an MBA. So I built my story around, look, I've been in education, that's been my calling forever, and that's what I want to do after my MBA as well. That was a complete story then. I didn't know that if that's what I really wanted to do. And that story really worked well. And then after 2 years, when I had the opportunity and I looked at the options available, in fact, I looked at the group and I said, probably education was the real story I should stick to. So
You got sold on your own story.
I got sold on my own story, and that was by chance.
So you came through the finals route, TAS final placements on campus or summers?
No, so I came in through the summers route,
Right.
and that was also, just to give you guys a glimpse of what really happens is, when you join campus, there is just so much peer pressure around summer internships because you're essentially joining in June end or typically mid-June, if I'm not wrong. By September is when companies start coming for your summer internships. That 3 months is about making your CV, figuring out what you want to do, and all of it all at once. And you have subjects that you've never done before. Like for me, I was an engineer. Accounting was like crazy for me. Like even for the 2 years at Ahmedabad, my balance sheets never balanced because I didn't know what to do with it. What would be debited, what would be credited. So in those 3 months, that decision was very, very difficult that what do I want to do? And because you have day-wise placements and you see everybody getting placed, I ended up with that.
3 months, none of you know what you want to do, where you want to go for your summer internship. You're going to be clueless by the end of 6 months, and the end of 2 years, you'd have changed your minds. And a lot of the guys who joined TAS, I think, are the guys who never made up. They stick in that 3-month zone for the next 10 years. I still don't know what I want to do. I still don't know whether I want to do finance or marketing or strategy or which company I want to join. And I've had the flexibility to move that around thanks to TAS for a number of years to say, nahi, I don't want to do FMCG anymore. I want to do strategy now. I want to do something else now, which has worked.
Here's a company which is saying it's okay to be clueless because we give you that luxury of time and the luxury of opportunities across spaces and sectors to go figure out, okay, you want to try marketing, try it for 2 years. Didn't like it, try finance for another 2 years. Didn't like it, okay, let's say maybe you might like finance not in a customer-facing company, but let's say you might like finance in a company which is investing in other startups. So that luxury of opportunity was what I got sold on to really, because you could still experiment while joining a career stream.
I had a reputation in my batch after the first 2 stints of being an expert in cheap car, cheap hotels. And that chip stuck on my shoulder at some point, and I said, I will show you I can do luxury also. So when I got the chance to join Taj, I said, yeah, I'll do luxury also. I'm not just cheap.
You're not just cheap. So there are only 2 routes to get into TAS. The one is through campus, the other is through in-house. In-house, you have you should be a Tata employee for a couple of years and within a certain age, within a certain work experience bracket. What applicable for you is only the campus route. So that's a critical decision what you want to make and what you've got to make. And actually, I want to bring this point up is that, look, on campus, you have this option to get into TAS at several touch points.
My question is regarding career gaps in profile. There are people, they've given a couple of years for UPSC and things didn't fall in place and they decide to get an MBA, a fresh start. So how do you perceive people like them? Is it a hindrance or does it become an advantage because of risk taking or something like that?
So good question. I get asked this all the time. In fact, the in-house guys ask me that we don't have an MBA, so the campus guys will have an advantage over us. And the campus guys say that the in-house guys have experience, so they will have an advantage over us. Not at all for both. It's a clean slate. It starts afresh. It starts afresh with the process that I mentioned, which is the neuroscience-based competency assessment that we do. Also, you fill up your TAS forms, and there you will probably talk to us about the projects that you have done, the experiences that you've had. None of that will get into the way, either positively or negatively, in choosing you over somebody else.
So I heard 2 things. One is you jump between functions and you jump between companies as part of TAS. So, yeah. So is it by choice or is it like you're posted that way?
It's both, honestly. It depends upon, again, A, what you want to do in your career, and B, sometimes you've been asked to take up a challenging assignment. The organization entirely kind of realizes that, this is a guy who's got a lot of potential. This is a guy who can solve problems for us. So they will put you into challenging roles and positions. Like, for example, I didn't ask to be stationed at Tirupati, but I did. I realized that, there are problems there, and those problems need to be solved, and they couldn't find anybody else other than a task manager to solve those problems.
In fact, during the year 1, it's possible that 3 or 4 stints could be something that you want to do. And it's possible that 1 is what we want you to do. So we try and monitor your aspirations, career choices, where you want to go, and of course try and map it with the opportunities that are available within the group.
There is just one thing that sometimes I think about, and it's very important to sometimes introspect that whilst we expect so much, there is also an expectation of us. And if we have that in mind throughout, we stay firmly grounded and rooted into the soil. What is the expectation that the world has of me? My organization has of me, my family has of me, any ecosystem that I belong to. What is the expectation that that ecosystem has of me? Just think about it. If that's somewhere there at the back of our minds every single day, I think we will all shine. You will shine for sure.
दुनिया पराई छोड़ के आजा, झूठे सारे नाते तोड़ के आजा, सौरभ दी तुझे एक बारी हे मायरी.
Thank you very much.